What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new review as we're set to go ahead and get into DonBrothers episode number 7, as we want to get ourselves a brand new episode here this week. Another fantastic one, if you ask me. For me personally, there is something about the grouping of the trio that we have here in Oni Sister, Saru Brother, along with Momotaro that really works for me. Now, I know as we've gone through the season so far, we have seen like different combinations and seen people team up with certain people. Like, I really enjoyed kind of seeing even Momo along with Kiji Brother the other week also, but there is something about this particular trio that I am fond of, and kind of hoping that they kind of lead the way in regards to the main team that really gets focused on the majority of the season. If anything, I do recall them last time when Momo and Oni Sister were out delivering packages, right? And they wind up bumping into Saru Brother back then also. So I really love when the three of these characters are certainly together, as we get to see them in the beginning of this episode. And I really continue to love the idea of Oni Sister being the lead of this series. Her themes just kind of continue to catch on to me. I am kind of curious. I do believe she has her own specific theme, but it does feel like whenever the music or whenever she's around, the music definitely tends to lighten up around her, sort of thing. So I really love just the atmosphere and vibe that Oni Sister really brings to this series. I think she's a really great balance. Somebody that, like an inspiring high school student, if you will, still a little naive in areas, older than she probably comes across sometimes as well in regards to mentality, but also there is just this childish sort of nature about her that really works. So I like the idea that she is, I believe, the youngest of all the rest of the characters that we have here so far, and just seeing how she works off of everybody else really works for me. So Oni Sister as the lead, been impressed very much so far. And in this particular week's episode, we get the opportunity to see a special lesson for her class. I believe she mentions once a week they have a special lesson where they have local people from the neighborhood come in and teach them a class pretty much about what it is that they certainly do. And for Oni Sister in here, I don't know if this is good fortune or not, but she does in fact get herself two local people, and they just so happen to be Saru Brother along with Momo Brother in here. Momo Brother being the second that wind up coming in just a little bit later. But this interaction was pretty fun. I mean, listen, I think Saru Brother for me is probably like my third favorite character in this season so far. I'm not quite sure how I rank him right now, but I love his haikus. I love the way he presents himself, how he carries himself, the way that he certainly speaks to people. Very much a deep thinker, if you will. I do wonder how much of that is BS, how much he feels like he probably pretty much believes everything that he's certainly saying, though. But I find it rather humorous how he interacts with people, avoiding some of the questions, the way he answers in very eloquent ways, if you will, sometimes through a haiku, or just a very well thought out answer type of thing. So I really enjoy Saru Brother in here, and an imagination to certainly boot. Like, I love the idea that somebody asks him a question and Oni Sister makes reference to the idea like, oh my god, he's not even answering the question properly, as homeboy goes right deep into like deep imagination, imagining himself like eating noodles and stuff, and he just goes off into his own world, and we've got the students trying to figure out exactly what it is that he's doing. I guess if anything, Juru and the Tokujers would be very proud, right? Like, I think they would love to have this man on their team, but there are moments when I do really worry about this man's life, in the sense of, how are you living, Saru Brother, right? Like, I love the idea that the students ask them the questions of, what do you do for work? Oh yeah, I have no work. Well, what do you do for money? I really don't have any money either. It seems like he's very much against the concept and the idea of money. Said that the coins burned his fingers, sort of thing. So he's very much living his own life, if you will. Really in tune with himself, really much kind of cutting out all the distractions of everything else that there certainly is, I guess you can put it that way. Refers to himself as a professor, and I felt that he fit the the requirements, if you will, of substitute teacher for the week. I thought Saru Brother actually did pretty well, but for me, it really rather wind up getting exciting with when Momotaro wind up coming onto the scene, because I really love the idea that Saru Brother pushes him, that he's not really willing to kind of sit back and take the answers that maybe Oni Sister will sort of settle for, right? The fact that he is a deep thinker and willing to ask those questions that maybe others really want to know the burning questions to, but don't. don't ask, leave it up to Saru brother to certainly be the one. And so for me, like the idea of him asking, you know, does he have any friends? Who does he certainly interact with? And he's like, nope, I don't have anybody, even your peers. You know, none whatsoever. And so it really does kind of bring to light in the sense of, so how do you view us, right? Clearly we're not necessarily friends. You clearly have made that clear. We're more, I guess, work associates, right? If you want to go ahead and compare companions like that. But I think when you also think of the word companions, clearly it is something, somebody that you trust, that you keep nearby you, that has the same goals as you, if you will, somebody that you do, you know, definitely want to go ahead and keep close and certainly depend on. So, you know, whether or not that means you're in full on friendship mode, who certainly knows, but there is at least a positive side to the idea of him viewing them as companions, right? Because if you even go back to the battle in the action towards the very end, when we've got Momotaro once again against Sonoi from the Cerebrains, the fact that we get the Cerebrains even trying to invite him and recruit him in. But I love the response of Momotaro where he says, you would make a terrible companion, right? And so I think if anything, that shows you the value of how high he definitely holds Saru brother and the rest of them. Again, even if he doesn't necessarily consider them that friendship level, there is definitely an importance and a connection there. So I really enjoyed the moment that we wind up having here, and Saru brother really pushing that envelope, and then of course getting the opportunity to see Momotaro showing off here. And I think the idea of him showing off is a perfect example of kind of understanding why it is that he gets under people's skin so well. Like the fact that he wind up beating a karate champion and like just destroying a bunch of school chairs. He also beats the shogi captain. I'm not familiar with what shogi is, but it felt very much like maybe Japanese checkers or a form of checkers, or maybe it's played similarly. I'm not quite sure, but I am interested in it. Destroyed the guy, considering the fact that Momo said he only played one time, right? So it shows you not only his good fortune, how great at everything that he certainly is, but also how quick the animosity from other people can be towards being, you know, either wanting to attack him or feel very negative towards him in regards to him beating me again, showing me the right way while I've been doing the wrong way forever, right? So that kind of stuff really does build up over time, and if he continues to do that over and over again, just imagine what those high school kids, how they certainly would view him, you know what I mean? So I do think they do a great job in showing shining examples of how his good fortune unfortunately does bring for bad fortune at the same time. So great stuff though, I thought, that we wind up getting here between all three of those characters. And I also really enjoy, just a quick side honorable mention in here, the fact that they ask Momotaro why he was there, and he says, oh, I lost to in rock paper scissors, just going back to like one of the first episodes that we've had in our introduction to Momotaro, and just seeing how gullible he is in regards to when it comes to rock paper scissors. The guy can't lie, pretty much, right? So anytime you ask him, what are you gonna throw out, he's always gonna tell you, and he always winds up losing. So it definitely makes me laugh that somebody else could have been in his place and he was kind of swindled and tricked out of it, and now he ended up being in this position. But you know, it's that bond that he kind of always refers to. It's always something that winds up bringing them closer together. So I do find that rather curious, to say the least. But I thought the companion aspect of this week's episode really worked for me. Let's see here. What else? Oh, speaking of which, too, I also really like the idea that Saru brother tried to tempt fate in trying to beat Momotaro himself. The fact that he, in his mind, went through the same the same contests that Kiji brother went through, but absolutely failed and decided to go ahead and take another route. So I thought that was pretty fascinating that we got to see what that certainly looked like. The action in here was once again nonstop. If anything, I feel like I continue to be impressed with Don Momotaro and just his sword play. Like, his sword skills are just out of this world, honestly. His technique is just incredible to watch. So, you know, props to the stunt guy, whoever's actually playing Don Momotaro. Momotaro in the suit, whether they've got a second unit director or whoever certainly in charge of the stunt team over there. They continue to do incredible work, and I've always been impressed with the drone shots, if that's what they're certainly using from their time back in Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger when I first really started noticing it. They just continue to get better with it. Sometimes I feel like it might be a little bit too overboard. Like, I don't think we need it every episode, but it definitely doesn't stop or slow down the action whatsoever. And surprisingly, while I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of his avatar change where he jumps into like the SD world sort of character, I actually thought it was actually a pretty cool shot of him, seeing him rush towards Sonoi with the knife slash and him actually pushing Sonoi back. I thought visually, I thought that actually worked out pretty well. And you know what? I actually didn't mind the villain here this week. I was scratching my head trying to figure out exactly who the villain was. Like, the question I had was why he was invisible, sort of lurking around like camouflage and then jumping on people, right? Like, this week's monster was very much sort of that rule law disciplinarian monster sort of thing. If you were caught breaking any rules or laws, then that's when he wind up capturing you, and things like that. So I did find that interesting, and it eventually did grow on me when I don't think it hit me though until they were actually back in the classroom, and I was thinking to myself, oh wait a minute, I think that's probably the principal that's causing it, right? Because of the fact that the principal was sick, or he was under the weather, his allergies were acting up, so he was locked himself in things like that. So I guess there's just like this desire to be out there with the kids, just disciplining people left and right. I mean, she did mention at the beginning of this episode that her principal was rather strict, so the idea of him, you know, feeling some type of way if his allergies keeping him from disciplining people enough to where this desire just winds up building, and it winds up creating this Hitatsuki that we learned about the other week. It's pretty interesting to kind of see how it still continues to form that way. And I believe there was even some inspiration in here from Five Men, if I'm not mistaken, from the previous Super Sentai team, where, by the way, quick honorable mention also, Zenkaiger Black winds up making an appearance in here very, very briefly towards the end. He's simply there just to go ahead and get the avatar gear that does in fact have Five Man on it. And I think this episode too does in fact verify for us that Kito is the administrator, and I think they verify for that for us in the intro, as she mentions the idea of trying to figure out who the administrator is, or references the administrator. It's a picture of Kito that winds up popping up there. So that feels like confirmation to me, but maybe I'm wrong. You guys certainly go ahead and let me know what you guys wind up thinking. But overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought the monster this week was fun. The action was absolutely incredible. I did find it interesting again that the Cerebrains wind up throwing out an invitation for him to join. They clearly find something about Don Momotaro appealing, that they want to go ahead and bring him into their fold. So I do wonder if that says something about who they are, sort of as a species, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, man, the showing off of Don Momotaro was fantastic. Another brief glimpse into regards to his good fortune gone bad, if you will, and a really big fan of just the combination of these three characters when it comes to Saru brother, Oni sister, and Momotaro as well. But other than that, guys, listen, these are just simply my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. What did you guys think about this particular week's episode? I continue to absolutely love this, to be honest with you. This season's been fantastic. I've been really appreciative of the pace. And one quick honorable mention I did put here in my notes, like, while I have seen this over the past few episodes, I do dig the idea of them being beamed sort of into battle when needed. One, I think it adds to just the suspense and the surprise of, we never know exactly like what our characters might be in the middle of doing before they wind up getting beamed. So for me, that's always a fun surprise to certainly watch. And I think it just cuts down in regards to the idea of transportation. And I think maybe character-wise, from a storyline purpose, it also allows you to continue to tell separate stories for these characters and allow them at any particular point in time to be with their teammates instead of having them to have to be connected throughout the entire episode. You know what I mean? It allows them a little bit more freedom, and it really works for me. It really feels like they're friends signing into a game as avatars, thus the theme, obviously. But they've really done a really great job of being able to recreate that in live action form. So yeah, guys, I'm a big fan and absolutely love the season so far. But again, I want to know your thoughts. If there's anything that I missed, character moments, storyline details, Easter eggs, homages, whatever, let your thoughts be known in the comment section box below, and we'll definitely continue this conversation until next week's episode. But until then, guys, do me a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.